I mean, people watch women's sports.
Yeah.
People want to watch women's sports, and like it's just such a testament to all female athletes right
Yeah.
now. Like they're just killing it, and for us to say that like we're a part of that, it's so awesome because we've all worked so hard to get here, and the people before us have worked so hard just for us to get here, and it's just like such a testament, and like I'm just so grateful and proud of like the people that have got us to this point.
I never thought that I would see the day where I'd be sitting in a stadium with 35,000 plus people watching the Chicago Red Stars play football. But that's exactly what happened this past weekend. 35,038. That's the number announced in a packed Wrigley Field on June 8th, 2024. A new NWSL record for attendance, a record the club has been trying their best to chase these last few months with promotions, events, advertisement across Chicago. On the surface, this may have been an attempt to break the NWSL record, but it was much more than that. This was an opportunity to show that the people of Chicago love watching women's sports, which you heard echoed by goal scorer Penelope Hocking at the beginning of this episode. The trek out to Bridgeview has long been just a piece of the problem that is the club's attendance issues. The club officials have made it clear that their intention is to build a women's soccer specific stadium inside Chicago's city limits. And apart from the loss and some rain, every other piece of this weekend's plan came together swimmingly. A packed pre-match event in Gallagher Way, stores filled with Red Stars gear and people surrounding and purchasing it, billboards, video screens donning giant advertisements and images of players, streets crowded with people waiting to see a glimpse of their favorite player arriving to the stadium, NWSL team flags lining the historic scoreboard of Wrigley Field, the Red Stars' name appearing on the iconic Wrigley Field marquee. No one can deny now that this club needs to be in the city. It's what the future holds for them. And Saturday was not just the beginning of the future of this club, but another step forward in the rise of the NWSL and women's soccer overall. And now, welcome to Red Stars Report, podcast dedicated to bringing you the latest news and commentary on all things Chicago Red Stars. And I am your host, LT.
And I'm your co-host, Grant.
And for anybody who is listening that could be listening for the first time, if you had just discovered the Red Stars through that match at Wrigley Field, welcome. For those returning, I'm glad that you're coming back. We've been off for a couple of weeks, but obviously we were not going to miss an opportunity to talk about this moment. And Grant, I know we have talked about the club and how they performed, but I really just wanted to take the time this episode in the beginning to express the magnitude of this moment. I know you weren't able to make it out to Wrigley Field, but I wish you could have heard the stadium when Penelope Hocking scored that goal. It was electric.
I love baseball stadium environments, and I'm sure that, Wrigley Field, even though it's the home of the Cubs, whatever, blah, blah, blah on that. Honestly, like from the videos that I've seen, all the different angles from all the different fans that were in attendance, it was quite magical. And I'm very jealous to anyone that was able to attend. I hope my work doesn't hear this, but I'd rather be in Wrigley Field than Northwestern Women's Field. That's it on that. History. I mean, if I could talk from an advertising perspective for a second, since that's my major right now, the amount of work that went into that for that marketing team, wow. Like from the commercial, the shirts that were made, It's like the little details too, the hats that and crew necks they were selling with like the Ivy logo. Everything it seemed like came together really, really well. And I want to go back to the Soldier Field game because I was in attendance for that. And that one seemed, I wouldn't say, I know there were a lot of people there. It was like 20,000 around that amount, but I just that environment felt way off compared to Wrigley Field. It was 15,000 more people, sure. Um, but that Soldier Field game wasn't marketed well, and a lot of the Fire fans left, and a lot of the Fire supporter sections left as well. But this being a standalone game with a brand new team in the league, it's a great way to introduce the NWSL to new fans in the city. And to your point, the Red Stars need to be in Chicago. Get them out of Bridgeview. Don't put them anywhere else but somewhere in the city.
Yeah, the Soldier Field game, I was at that as well. I remember, like, obviously, I just went to the Red Stars match. I didn't go to the Fire match, but so I obviously did the reverse of what we would say about the Fire people leaving. I didn't go to the Fire match, but I went to the Red Stars one. And when I was walking through that tunnel to get to Soldier Field, it was just like droves of Fire fans leaving. And so when you're in that stadium and the attendance is announced later that there's, I think it was like 23 or 24,000, whatever, that's not how many people were in that stadium. There was like there was more than a usual Red Stars match for sure, but there was not that 24,000 still there.
Yeah.
And you're right, it wasn't marketed well, but that was, different ownership, a different team. But what, like, Laura Ricketts and the people that she has put in place and the amount of you know, resources that she provides, also being an owner of the Chicago Cubs, really, really uh changed the way that a out of Bridgeview Red Stars match would work. And the marketing was perfect. It was brilliant at times. And I think it truly was the biggest factor in them breaking that attendance record. There was no way that the amount of effort and time that they put into everything that they were doing to lead up to this match was not going to lead to an attendance record breaking. uh it really would have felt incredibly disappointing if it had turned out that they didn't break the record.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about influencer marketing too. Got my advertising brain going right now. They had the one of the hot dog vendors at Wrigley Field in the commercial. I'm not a Cubs fan, so I don't really know like his whole thing, but I did recognize him because I know that he's been in a few things. Just a lot of sports people in the city itself.
A lot of
Actors,
crossover. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of crossover with the teams, actors wearing support women's sports. Is
The
that what it's
obvious
like a black
shirts.
shirt? Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has the
Mhm.
Red Stars logo on it too. Um, I saw that Sky players were in attendance at the game. Elizabeth Williams. Um, I think Chris Brady of the Fire was there as well, if I remember seeing correctly.
I think so, yeah.
So just a lot of support in
Joe
general.
Girardi was
Again, so
there,
much better.
Cubs announcer.
They were talking about it on Marquee, uh, when the Cubs were playing the Reds the other day. So
Yeah,
just a
every
lot
every Cubs
going on with
game
that.
they've they've really marketed or pushed the marketing of this match. And then they obviously, since Red Stars matches are on their network as well, they make it a point to to advertise the Red Stars as well, because it's just good business. But yeah, all the crossover between sports and entertainment world people, that it really seems to help a lot. I think the amount of rain and kind of probably led to them not getting as many like walk up fans as they wanted. Cause like I remember like I was sitting on in Gallagher Way and I would hear people walk by um on Clark Street and they would just like people were saying, you know, Red Stars, like Chicago Red Stars, are like, what's this? And about like, and I think on like a better day, more people probably would have been like, let's go to this. Um, but they still broke the record. That was the point. That was the goal. Um, I don't think they could. I don't think they would have sold out if everything went more perfectly. But they maybe would have gotten a few more people in the door. For other like moments, like I mentioned before, I think it was important for everything to go right prior to the match, and then it was important in certain aspects for the match to go well too, to really make it a success. And I had mentioned during the match that it it wasn't like, if they won, yeah, that was probably the best outcome. But if they were going to lose, they needed to not make it a bad performance overall, or a non-excited excitement performance. Like people need to get excited about something. And Penelope Hawking scoring, like they needed something like that to happen. Yes, the loss wasn't great and it definitely is not what anybody wanted, but if they didn't get a single goal, people would have gone home with a different mentality, I think, if that had never happened. And a really cool piece of trivia that kind of came out of it was that Penelope Hawking scored on the same field that her father, a 13-year MLB veteran, Denny Hawking, hit a home run in back in 1999. Like Penelope arrived at the match like wearing her father's Minnesota Twins jersey, and her dad was there to witness his daughter score a goal in a professional women's soccer match on the same field that he has scored on, which is cool. It's just a neat little piece of trivia.
I was kind of confused when I saw the Twins jersey in the arrival pictures. I was like, that's kind of weird. But then I kind of looked more into it and I was like, oh wait, this makes sense. Never mind.
Yeah, I think I think this whole, like the only place that I saw that storyline was Gal Pal, I think, had talked to her about it in one of their interviews leading up to the match. But like that's something that really should have been focused on throughout, and like every media outlet, like including us, should have had knowledge of that and had been talking about that. Like it's just like it was a great story and would have been a good way to really expose this match to more people, especially in the baseball world. And I think it was a really missed opportunity to do that. And then, you know, the story wrote itself in the end.
Swing and a miss. I mean, now that you bring it up, I already had like an idea of what they could have done, what the Red Stars could have done. They could have just did like a singular commercial or like 30-second vid of her talking about um her dad, and then like playing in the same field that he once did, and how, he homers and how she hopes to score and blah blah blah, and be like, oh, come to the Wrigley Field game. But missed opportunity, I guess.
Yeah. I was thinking about like historic footage of her dad like playing shortstop or second base or something, because he was a utility player, so he played I think every position except pitcher and catcher. And just like him like throwing a ball off screen or something, and then it being a soccer ball when it gets to Penelope, and she like that would have been like a little cool like father-daughter sort of mashup thing. It would have been cool
Yeah.
to see that in the marketing or storytelling and stuff. But it like I said, in the end, the story wrote itself with her scoring, and then everyone um, piling on to um, or like diving into his statistics and stuff to figure out everything. And then it was confirmed after the match that he had scored runs, and I think he scored 3 times, and one was a homer. So that was pretty cool.
And the best part about this, there were fireworks after the goal.
Yes, I was surprised by that. I did not
I was also
see that
surprised.
coming. I didn't see that coming at all.
The
It was cool
drone
though.
footage was
I-
amazing.
Ion's use of drone footage was so cool. Like
Yes.
it was not something I expected, but it's really something that made the experience of them playing in a baseball stadium better. Because if you're just looking at the field the entire match, you kind of can just forget that you're in a baseball stadium. So when they were just using drone shots every now and then, and you could see Wrigley and in the surrounding area, it was really cool.
Everything with this experience is about creating the experience for the people that are not there as well. And
For sure.
so incorporating drone shots or shots of the city or whatever, like, is so important. And when you watch like major sporting events like the Stanley Cup Finals or the World Series, like there's always these different kind of angles, and this is the TV producer in me. There's all these different kinds of angles that you show on the screen, build up the hype, show posts from social media, all of that. Everything just was incredible to witness from my little phone screen on YouTube TV.
Yeah, I can't begin to describe to you what it was like being in that stadium. Like I it was hard to hear when the crowd erupted. The like my thought processes did not like compute that I was watching a Red Stars match because I'm not used to that. Like I like when there's like, you know, a handful of thousands of people making noise that it's louder than you expect at a Red Stars match, like the North Carolina um tying in added minutes, or the um or they scored a goal a few matches ago that I was just like, wow, this stadium with only like 4,000 people in it is so much louder than I expected. But to hear 35,000 people lose their minds when Penelope scored, it was overwhelming. It was really unreal to experience that, especially in a field like Wrigley Field, which is just like it's iconic. And hearing cheers in that stadium for years as a Cubs fan, especially like during the World Series, and then to actually, experience it with another team that I love it was just unmatched.
And to even be in the press box, like that's a whole other thing. I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, that day it was amazing. I was lucky enough to be credentialed for this match, which was a childhood dream of mine, come true as a lifelong Cubs fan and a wannabe sports journalist growing up. I always wanted to step foot in that press box at Wrigley, and I about teared up doing it. Like I just kind of like walked in there, saw my name, and was just looking out onto an almost empty Wrigley Field. it was just like, I don't know, it really hit me. Uh, and just like the whole experience of being up there and seeing nearly like the entire crowd was, um it was just something I can't describe. Uh, it just like it was very emotional for me, and I I I hope that that other people get to experience something like that when it comes to their dreams in the soccer world, because I don't know if anything will kind of match that for me anytime soon.
I love that for you. Like, it's just great. It's like a full circle moment as well. Like, I remember when I went to my first Red Stars game as a credentialed media. Um, that was weird because I was like 19. It felt really, really weird to be like that young and to be credentialed and to go up in the press box and to watch the game from there and watching on TV for years, going in the crowd for a few years as well, and then to sit up there. I mean, it's the moments you live for, I guess, as a sports journalist.
Yeah, and I had only been in the SeatGeek press box for a couple of weeks, and then the Wrigley Field match happened. So that was only like my third or fourth time being in the press box for a Red Stars match, and for it to come like that soon was crazy. But I could not have been there without our community and everyone that like listens to our podcast and stuff. It was like I was not sitting there thinking like, look what I've done. It was me sitting there like, look what everyone has done for me um to get me
Shout out Discord.
there. Shout out the Discord, shout out anybody that follows us on our social media channel, and anybody who has had any interaction with me. It kind of just keeps me going and keeps me wanting to do all of this, and it leads to moments like getting to be in the press box at Wrigley.
So did you get to see anyone at the game, or did you guys have a meetup, or?
So I met a few people in Gallagher Way prior to the match. I ran into a couple of people when I was just wandering around the stadium. I ran into Eddie, um, and then after the match, I met up with Jules because we in Gallagher Way they were giving away these Parkside commemorative Wrigley Field cards, and Jules wasn't going to make it there soon enough to get one, and had asked me to grab her a pack. So I met with up with her after the match to get them a pack. So it was those cards are really cool though. I should grab them. They're sitting on the shelf right there. But um and then just watching everyone else in the Discord like talk to each other, go see each other, um, meet up with each other prior to the match. Um, Liz and Lauren, Liz who co-hosts sometimes, and Lauren who's a very active member in our Discord. They uh, took the train together to head to Wrigley, which was cool. Just watching people in this community um, become friends and find each other through what was built here is just a really cool thing to experience. Um, if I wasn't so like shocked and nervous about being in the press box, I would have snuck down and wandered around the field a little more and saw people at their seats. But I really just didn't want to leave.
It's the place to be, the Wrigley Field press box.
It's cold. Oh man, was it cold? if you want a place to be, it was out of the rain, luckily, but oh my god, the wind up there was freezing. Ice box.
Could have worn a Chicago Red Stars Ivy crew neck with a matching hat as well.
I can't support the team in the press box, you know that. But back to the match a little bit. The other cool narrative that came with the match was Orland Park native Tatum Milazzo getting to come in and play in front of 35,000 people in her home state inside the city limits of Chicago must have really been quite special for her. I wish that other Illinois native Sarah Griffith had the opportunity to come in too, but of course it's about coaches' tactics and such, and not just from who's from where, and and we should get them time because they're from here, kind of thing. If that were the case, then Tatum would have started as well, but we can get in that later.
It's just so cool to have like all these little interesting factoids to talk about. Even with Kayla Sharples coming back, and being there as well. Just what a cool night. Game aside, of course.
Yeah.
What a very cool night.
Yeah, getting to talk to Kayla prior to the match and then after the match was really cool. She really was she also had like a very good story to tell about it. She talked post match about how her mom grew up on Addison and in Wrigleyville, and how Kayla grew up going to Cubs games and how she got to be there for the Game 6 World Series, and then she was outside the stadium in Wrigleyville during Game 7 when they won. So she was just talking about how it was like written in the stars that she just so happened to go to Bay FC, and then they just happened to be the team that matches up with the Red Stars when they decided to do their Wrigley match. So it was cool for her to be a part of that as well.
Love a good story. Maybe not about the Cubs, but I do love a good story.
Yeah, but Kayla was very popular around the Red Stars circles when she was here.
Naperville legend.
Naperville legend.
Kayla Sharples.
But just kind of being at um the match, like even prior to the match, was a really cool experience, just all around Wrigleyville and in Gallagher Way, and walking into the Cubs store and around like the Wrigley concourse inside, just seeing sections of the stores and windows just covered in Red Stars gear was really awesome. The club and the Cubs did an amazing job really making Wrigleyville and Wrigley Field feel like a Red Stars stadium and a Red Stars city. And it was really just beautiful to witness. I like I said before, I think the rain kind of affected the amount of people that would like be in those areas and like walk up and and buy tickets, but like nonetheless they broke the record, 35,000, 38, like I mentioned before, nearly doubling their previous standalone record, which I think was around like 17,000, and then beating the Soldier Field doubleheader in 2022, which was around 24,000. The previous standalone record was set by Seattle, which was 34,000 during Megan Rapinoe's final home match of her career. So to break that record was something really special for the club and fans of the team. So I think that it was a really cool thing to be a part of.
I hope the attendance kind of translates for the rest of the season. Um, I know it'll be difficult because I feel like the majority of the people that went live in the city, and I know that transportation is such an issue. So I hope they find a way to convince these people to leave Chicago for Bridgeview.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that I was thinking about when it came to that. The next match is, I think, the next home match is, I think, July 6th. And it's that Kids Day one that's at like noon,
That we're going
and
to.
that we are going to. Um, and I think to have such a big gap between Wrigley and your next home game is probably an issue when it comes to trying to translate those numbers. Who knows how many of those people just were at the Wrigley Field match because it was Wrigley Field and it was just a moment in history to be a part of. Not necessarily people that are just going to be fans of the Red Stars like moving forward. I'm sure there are people who were there that, you know, this was their first time experiencing a Red Stars match and now they are Red Stars fans even with a loss. Like I said before, the scoring that goal I think helped the mindset of moving forward with what this match was supposed to help in some ways. If it was just a 2-0 loss and there was like nothing really super exciting about it, I don't know how much it would translate. Um, I just hope that the numbers get a little better, but the goal is to not be in Bridgeview. That's just what it is. It's very clear and obvious now, and I I don't see any um, substantial rise in attendance that's going to come from this. It's not going to be like the that previous uh, standalone record of 17,000, which was, I'm pretty sure, like the first match after the World Cup, which
Yeah.
obviously that's going to translate because everyone wants to go and see Alyssa Aaron, Julie Ertz, and you know all of them that were on the 2019 World Cup team.
I just You would think that maybe they'll announce some sort of plan after the season, maybe towards the beginning of next season about possible locations or maybe even a location.
Mm,
But I don't know how quick they want to be public about that, and especially with trying to get public funding, which I'm against. We did talk about this a while ago,
yeah,
but if that comes up, are people going to support that? Um, is it going to be a ballot measure type deal? So much that goes into this. So
I,
we'll see.
I think even with this match, I think like conversations may be a little easier to break into because you walk in, you're like, look, 35,000 people came and watched us. But I think they're still going to have a really hard time getting a seat at the table when it comes to investment and people willing to talk to them about building a stadium in the city. It's just not men's sports, and and there are stubborn people out there that are not gonna that they just can't see the way that women's sports is growing. So I think they're still going to have a hard time. I don't know what's going to happen within the next year or two, but I hope something easier comes because of this match.
If only we had Caitlin Clark on our team, all our issues would be solved. People would be like, playing in Bridgeview? Nah, she should be playing in Chicago. What's going on? But I mean, if we think about the Sky too, they have their training facility, God only knows where, Deerfield, Illinois,
Yeah,
I
in
think
like a
it
rec
is where
center.
it is. And they share Wintrust with DePaul. It's essentially a joke at this point.
Yeah.
So you just look at that compared to a bunch of other teams. whether it's in the NWSL or WNBA, disparity is there. We'll see what happens. Time will tell, but I'm hoping at least by the beginning of the 2025 season, we will know if they're actually planning to move to Chicago anytime soon.
It'll be interesting to see what comes out of this, and hopefully the goal is realized, and within the next year or two we're hearing stuff like, the Chicago Red Stars plan to build a stadium at this location and it's in the city limits. I hope at the very least they go, the Chicago Red Stars plan to build a training facility, like state of the art training facility. That would be a good goal, but
Yeah.
but definitely getting out of Bridgeview, both in training and stadium wise, is the peak, is where they need to be.
I never want to go to Bridgeview ever again after, let's say, 2026. Call it after that,
Yeah. But there's one last thing that I want to talk about before we get into the match. The field. Converting a baseball field into a soccer pitch is not like the best thing to do. It was something that the Players Association worked very hard on getting rid of in the NWSL, and the Laura Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs and Wrigley Field, and the players for the Red Stars and Bay FC, they, were a part of conversations that were both um, being able to play in a converted baseball stadium, and then also a part of the conversations when it came to what they were going to do with the playing surface, which was good to know that the players had a voice in where they laid, the sod down, and where the highest impact areas were going to be that needed the best treatment from the grounds crew. But I had all the faith in the world in the Wrigley grounds crew, because they're famously amazing at their jobs. And the coaches praised the pitch, the players praised the pitch. It held up in the rain. There were no reports of differences between the sod infield, or the sodded infield, and the natural, grass outfield. No players sustaining injuries because of like seams or divots between the two surfaces. It just looked really good. And, apart from when it was wet, apparently the ball carried really well on the grass. So all around, a great job by the grounds crew converting that field, um, along collaboration with the players.
And the field setup video was cool to watch as well. I found it a bit comical to see when like the tarp covered sections of the field by the goal. I thought that was kind of funny. I am no expert on baseball fields converted into soccer fields and putting the sod on there. I was a little worried about injuries. Because I just think back to the Seattle Rain days of playing wherever they played. Um, but I mean, if the Players Association is cool with this being a thing now, like I saw people saying that, oh, maybe Bay should do this at like Oracle Park or whatever, like by all means,
Mm.
do what you want. Maybe a Fenway game, who knows?
I don't
If this is a
trust
thing that they want to do now.
I don't trust anybody but the Wrigley grounds crew. So,
Okay.
or
We'll
New
ship
York,
them in.
because the Yankees convert Yankee Stadium for um, New York FC all the time. So apparently the
He had a
Wrigley
Gotham game.
apparently the
over there.
Wrigley Field grounds crew went to New York and talked with their grounds crew to sort of understand how they do their conversions, which was kind of cool. But yeah, getting the sod in the infield and like tarping it to protect it from the rain, and Penelope Hawking, when asked about it, was like, I thought we were just going to play on dirt.
Honestly, I thought it was great. I thought it was slick. I mean, you want a fast pitch as a soccer player. I mean, with we knew that the constraints were going to be pretty significant, which they did feel like it, but we trained almost 2 weeks like that, so we were prepared. And um, yeah, but I think it was great. I honestly expected to be playing on dirt. I don't know if you
No.
expected that, but I mean, it was great. I think they did a great job, and I'm just very grateful that Wrigley let us use their field to play on.
That's funny. That's
Low
very
expectations there.
yeah. But when asked about the surface in general, Penelope Hawking and Hannah Anderson kind of just looked at each other and were like, it was good. Like, we have no complaints. So that was really good to know.
So do you think that the league should continue this new tradition? No,
No.
it's over.
No.
It's so over.
Mostly just because of the dimensions. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want narrow, short field soccer. It's not exciting. I don't
Or
like it.
maybe
Unless you want to do like a
even
7v7
like
or something. I don't know.
go to a football stadium, have the Spirit play wherever the Commanders play or something crazy like that. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
I don't know. How about we just build women's soccer specific stadiums all around?
Yeah,
Let's
I
go.
mean, get however many people fit into football stadiums, break the record again. Except we want this one for just a little bit. So can't have it just yet, other teams.
I mean, I bet you anything that if Atlanta gets an NWSL team, they'll break the record.
Mercedes-Benz.
Those people always show out for
I know.
national team matches. So
Even like Atlanta United games look fun. And
yeah.
I hate Atlanta United with a burning passion. Those games look terrific. So if they got a team, it's over. Forget it.
Yeah.
Best atmosphere in the league.
Yeah, it's over if they get one. I guarantee it. Goodbye record.
It's gonna go to Cleveland. New team gonna be in Cleveland. I'm calling it now.
No thanks. Let's move on from that.
They have their plans set out for the stadium and all that. If you follow online, I don't know if you've seen anything.
So let's talk about
it,
something that's also
forget
terrible,
Ohio,
like Cleveland. Let's talk about the starting 11 and what a starting 11 it was.
I texted you before. Hannah Anderson? I mean, it's not anything against her. I was just like,
hey, the way she played when
I was shocked. So
the way she played when she came in the last match to get her first minutes of her career, I was like, okay, this is the girl that I remember in college. Like, this is the person I thought was going to go very high in the draft. Like, she's very good. Apart from like some poor passes, I thought she had a good match, like decent positioning, had a really nice moment dribbling around players that were pressing in the box, that got some ooze from the crowd. And I honestly hope it's not a one-off. I hope she's fought her way into that starting role, mostly because I'd like to just see Natalia give us a better attacking option on the outside.
Hannah Anderson, with the going back to the draft pick, how lucky are we in terms of future?
Yeah, I think
just in general.
I think this draft class has like slowly been like creeping their way into like, okay, like I'm I'm good with this. I'm good with this with this draft class so far. Especially like the lower end picks, which is interesting. Like Jimmy's Joseph was a surprise at the upper end that we've talked about, and then now down at the lower end of the draft, Hannah Anderson, who I thought was going to go higher, falling all the way down to us in a later round. I think was lucky because, like I said, other than her passing, I think she's played really well in a match and a half. Like for her to go a full 90 in her first start is impressive.
I'm excited to see her play when we have that. What's the tournament called during the Olympics?
I forgot.
I don't know what the crossover tournament is what I'm gonna
Yeah,
call it.
I forgot.
I'm excited for her
I'm
to get more
embarrassed.
minutes during that.
But watch her get more minutes on Friday against Kansas City. She's
Oh
going to
my
be in
God,
that
we're
starting
pulling
lineup.
Kansas City next?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my God. Did you see the
What?
score? Did you see the score?
Our defense can
I
maybe
know, I know.
sort of, kind of, maybe-ish handle them. I don't know.
But
But their defense is so
counterpoint to
bad.
that, defense does not exist in whatever their stadium name is because of
Oh,
all the
yeah,
goals that are scored there. Forget
that's
it.
true.
It's like cursed.
Maybe our offense will actually look good then in that stadium.
There we go.
uh, but yeah, the rest of the starting 11 uh, included Alyssa Nair, who was a big question mark these last few weeks after sustaining an injury in a match on May 12th, leading to her missing the last two matches and Mackenzie Wood getting the start and missing time with the U.S. women's national team in their first matches with Emma Hayes as their coach. She came back. I thought she performed really well for someone coming back from an injury and playing on a pitch that has never existed prior to the weekend. Her save, tipping it over the bar, got such a loud cheer from the crowd, and even just her touching the ball on like super easy saves or just pickups were, garnering huge cheers. So that was a cool thing to witness. So
It's
I'm
Alyssa
glad that,
Nair. She deserves it.
yeah, I'm glad she's back, and I'm glad she got to experience being on Wrigley Field. And hearing from Alyssa pre-match was amazing, having her talk about how when she joined the team, they were training on polo pitches and her locker room was just the trunk of her car. That was wild. And now she, got to play at Wrigley Field, and her locker was in a beautiful state-of-the-art locker room that the Chicago Cubs have. If anyone in that club deserved to witness and be a part of this history-making event, I think it was Alyssa.
For sure. That locker room is one of the best in Major League Baseball. Like, just stellar stuff. When they did that redesign, I was like, oh my goodness,
Oh yeah.
this is
Even
what
the
every team should
away,
have.
even the away locker room is really nice. So
Oh,
uh,
I haven't seen pictures of that.
you should look. It's like the home locker room of other lesser uh money dumped stadiums.
Money Dome Stadium, that's funny.
I mean, that's what they did. They just dumped a bunch of money into Wrigley.
Yeah.
That's what the Ricketses did.
I mean, it
Um,
was old and frail, but
it's great now. It's
hmm.
always been great, but now it's expensive great.
No
Uh,
comment
I
from
would
me.
I know, Sox fan. I would like to continue talking about the back line real quick. Um,
Go ahead.
Natalia played on the outside, which is something that I have wanted to see, and was hoping that Hannah Anderson would be good enough to maintain the center of the pitch while Natalia was on the outside. They played her on the left instead of the right, where she kind of had her hands full with Gudananji, and she didn't do fantastic, like getting the ball forward like I had hoped because of that. Uh, then she was subbed off at half, which I should have asked about post match, but I think it probably was one of two things. It was either uh, minutes restriction because of the international play with Finland, or she had a little knock, but I'm not quite sure. Hopefully, it's the former. But I want her on the right side of the field, getting us forward next match.
We'll see.
We'll see. But then the other side of the field was Taylor Malum, which she we've seen her on the left side a lot, and now she was playing on the right. She did a decent job getting the ball forward, or at least like picking up loose balls on the right side and um, moving them forward. Still not the best defensive work, which is why the defense got better when Tatum came into the match. But you lost that forward movement that Natu was giving them when she came into the match. And the back line is just like a big puzzle now, except for Sam, who's great. And it was fun watching Sam make her long throw ins at Wrigley like she was like an outfielder for the Cubs or something.
How did our defense from this game compare to the one when we were visiting Bay?
Well, the when we beat Bay the first time 2-1, and I can't remember who gave up that goal to, but our defense early in the season looked fantastic. Now I think there's like little holes here and there that are kind of being exploited. It's usually on like poor clearances, which is what we saw from the second goal that Bay scored, which was just Chardonnay Curran playing outside back, which is thing I'll just talk about in a second. Trying like picking up the ball facing the goal, like 2 yards away from the goal. And then she had two choices. It was either kick the ball to her right for a corner or try to clear it to her left. And she turned to clear it to her left and kicked it right at uh and Anderson, and they scored. So whoops. uh I don't know why Chardonnay Curran is playing outside back. It's a choice that Lauren has made before. The movement forward gets slightly better because she's an outside midfielder. Like that's what she's done and has done decently in her career. But then like the defense just kind of crumbles. The first time she was out there was better than this time. I just have no idea what they're going to do to find better balance on the outside. The absence of Maxi was probably due to her poor play lately as well. I'm not quite sure. But Natalia being on the outside is kind of where I'm looking. And we're not we didn't get that for more than 45 minutes in this match.
Do you think we need to go shopping for another defender, or are we more focused on another area?
Well, our midfield is honestly like our biggest problem, I think. They decided this match to switch things up and play three midfielders, sort of. They took Julia and put her where Ali Schlegel usually plays in that like attacking mid role, and Ali moved forward, and Mal and Penelope were out wide. The rest of the midfield was Leilani Nesbitt and Carrie Riccaro, who have been the choices in those holding midfielder spots the last several matches, and both played okay defensively. Carrie specifically played really well defensively, but I mean, they didn't do anything to get anything going forward consistently. It was just the same old story we've been talking about for weeks. not that Julia played any better, but like hell of a match to pick to move your defensive midfielder into an attacking role in a short, narrow pitch. It was just confusing. I think they'll probably shop in the transfer transaction window for midfield. I don't think they'll go defensively. Maybe, maybe they'll do an outside defender, but I think the midfield is the biggest issue right now.
I hope our defense is ready for Kansas City. We can be the first to actually play defense in that stadium. That can be our goal for our matchup against them. But
Well, hopefully, Sam and Natalia don't have to do it alone.
yeah, it'd be
I
nice.
yeah, like I said, I kind of it feels like Hannah Anderson will probably get another start in that match, but I'm just I'm not quite sure where Lauren's head is at, especially because this was like a special match, a
Yeah,
special sort of event, a narrower pitch, which is why it seemed like he was trying something different. Because they were probably trying something different, practicing on those dimensions for so many days. But I don't know. I'm tired of scoring one goal or no goals. I want more.
score 8.
I mean, watching the Utah match and them scoring 3 was great. And then you're like, yeah, but that was the worst team in the league. So of course you're gonna score 3 on them.
Something's gotta give. Maybe it was the pitch. We'll just blame
We'll blame the
the
pitch.
dimensions. Blame the dimensions. Call it a day. We move on. Go back to a regularly sized soccer field.
And still play like they always have.
We'll try to be
Uh
positive.
I would love I would love to be positive. Um I would. I've already talked about my positives of this match, and I don't have much more good stuff to say because we haven't even talked about the front line, which was just it was just people not finding Mal when she was making overlapping or underlapping runs or just being open in general. Um, like I don't know what more to say. Like Penelope got a goal, yes, and had more opportunities than most moving forward, taking shots. But there were moments of disconnect between her and Mal that could have helped them stay in the match. The whole front line is just having an issue finding Mal. You can see a big difference in performances between like the form that Mal is in for country and then you watch her domestically. And if you're not looking up the big picture, you're just like, what the hell's wrong with Mal? Like, why isn't she kicking ass like she does on the national team? And it's because she's not, surrounded by players who have played with her for a while and have like really, really good connections with her. Um, there's just something that isn't clicking and it clicks at times and you go, maybe that's the defining moment where things will pick up because that's the kind of connection we're looking for. But watching Bay FC just, from back line just go, you know, center back to midfielder to other midfielder to forward, shot on goal was just like, oh, why can't we do that? And like I like tactically just nothing is working for this team offensively. It's just frustrating to watch and even more so on a stage that they had on Saturday night. Thankfully, like Chardonnay, Shea Groom, and Penelope connected for that one goal, but it was like much needed in that moment, even with the loss. as for how the club solves this issue, like you said, I think it's just they need to do something in that transfer window. And if you're just going to do it tactically, they have to get away from this whole defend and counterattack tactic because it's not working. Or you have to change personnel because whoever this starting lineup is doesn't give you enough energy to really get a match going.
Our front line could be scary good, but it's not gonna happen unless that buildup is there, and it's just there's just so much that needs to be fixed, but I still think it's so early, though. I feel like as we get more towards the fall, if things aren't going well and we dip down in the table a bit more, then we can ring the alarms and all that. But for now, I'm gonna be slightly optimistic. I'm not gonna freak out yet, but when that transfer window opens, I will be looking at all the rumors to see who could possibly be a Red Star and help us get more goals.
Yeah, the talent that's on this team is there. And you just kind of have to keep looking back at how new these players are, how new they are to each other, how a lot of them are new to the league. And it's just, we got off to this like flaming start this season that really got a lot of, you know, hopes up. And I want to stay there. And my level gets there when we have good performances, even in losses. It's just hard when you have bad performances and lose. And it's like, I can find the positives. Like I said, I talked about the positives, talked about Alyssa Nair coming back, talked about how well Hannah Anderson played. Sam Staub is Sam Staub. And it's like, you can see the glimpses of Mal playing well when she has the ball at her feet. You know, Jamise Joseph is really good, um, but getting limited minutes, which is frustrating. But like you can find all these positives in certain areas, which is great because I love positives. But you can't use them to mask the issues with the club. Um, but I will stay optimistic, and I still believe that this club can be a playoff team come whenever that is, November. How late does the season go nowadays?
Far away. I
Um,
think doesn't it start? Isn't the last game in October, or is the last game in November?
I
Is
think
it
it's
really that
November
late?
3rd. I think that's the last match is November 3rd.
Wow.
So, well, I plenty of time to
Yeah.
improve things. And it was just hard to watch such a historic moment be like almost overshadowed by a loss. Like
At least we didn't get
obviously,
blown out.
yeah, didn't get blown out, didn't get shut out, and that was important, I think. Like I said, getting that goal and the way that like everyone's like bottled up energy just kind of exploded when Penelope scored that goal was crucial to the moment. And I I just wish they had won. It would have been so much easier to express everything with a win, but it's fine. They'll move on to Friday and hopefully beat an unbeaten Kansas City. Right? They're still unbeaten, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
5-2 win against Seattle today. 2 goals scored in 89 seconds. Um, but defense doesn't exist in Kansas City, so we'll be the ones to have a really good defensive game. Um, but
what was the post in the WNBA about the Connecticut Sun losing? That zero has to disappear eventually or something like that?
Something about a streak, I think, is what the Liberty said. I don't
Something about a
really.
zero not being a zero anymore, and that's where we're gonna go into with Kansas City. That
Yeah, all these
zero,
teams on
come on,
runs, forget it.
forget it. The Chicago Red Stars are coming into a stadium that they're, trying to do themselves, and they'll beat you. Look how positive I'm being.
I mean, if the Red Stars beat Kansas City, I will say
Finals, here we come.
that kind of cements us as a playoff team. Like, look, we can go up against the team. I believe they're in first, right? The team in first
Orlando. Well, I think
place,
they're probably in
or
first now. I don't know.
yeah, because they haven't
I don't remember.
dropped points really.
No, but
So,
Orlando was ahead of them prior to today. So
well, whoever,
they're probably ahead of Orlando now, since Orlando
first or
played.
second,
They're first. I
you
just looked it up. They're first.
okay? First place team, you beat them. That kind of shows. Oh, okay. Like when they beat Portland way back when in the semifinals, that was kind of like, oh, we're not a joke team, whatever. Like, we're here to win, we're here to play. That could be a moment that happens when they play Kansas City, but time will
It would be
tell.
cool. It would make the momentum shift would be tremendous if they could
Oh yeah.
find that much momentum. Because lately the beginning of matches have been diminishing in momentum. So hopefully, if they can get a win, they can just keep carrying that on. Especially, like I said, for these new fans that are just going to start watching Red Stars matches now. I want them to perform well for them so they stay.
All these new soccer fans.
We need them to stay.
I'm hopeful.
Me too. I love this team. So ride or die,
Live, laugh, love, Red Stars.
So before I, wrap things up, I wanted to mention that I'm going to try to put together a video showing everyone's experience at the match. So if you have photos or videos from that day, you can DM them to me at Red Stars Report on any of our social media platforms. I also have a post that you can just reply with photos and videos on Twitter. You can also send them to me on Discord if you'd like. But with that, we'll wrap things up for this week. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed on those platforms to know when our next episodes go up. And make sure you're following us at Red Stars Report on all of our social media channels to keep up with the latest news between the episodes. Don't forget to join our Discord with the link in the description. They're amazing people. I think you'll have a blast hanging out with them. But the next time you'll see us, we'll be back into our regular week-to-week grind of non-Wrigley Field matches. But with that, we'll see you next week for another Red Stars Report.